Okay, it is 3 after, so we are going to go ahead and get started. And I expect people to keep joining us, which is great. And it won't impact anything. So, again, welcome back to Evergreen Case Manager Training, Session C, the last of the 3 sessions. And as a reminder to you, I am Lisa Karth. I'm with FEI Systems, and I have Jacqueline Horning. I call her Jack, behind the scenes, excuse me, um, to support us for any technical challenges we might have. Leslie, I know everybody knows you, but I wanted to give you the opportunity to share anything that you would like to new based on the previous sessions, or who knows, something totally unrelated.
Thanks, Lisa. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Session C. So glad that you're here in spite of the continued power outages and internet outages and cleanup efforts that are going on in the state. We appreciate your attendance, and we're excited to show you around these last set of important forms that we wanted you to be aware of. Just again, as a reminder, in case we have anybody new on today's session, Lisa will be giving you a high-level overview, just technically how to navigate in the system, how to find these forms, how to create these forms and make edits to them. But we do have those January sessions. So if you haven't gotten signed up for those yet, we will be doing a little bit deeper dive on business process in some of those. Not sure that many of the forms that we're going to cover today will be very thoroughly covered during those sessions. It's more around the comp, PCP, SIP, authorization, classification, application. That's what we're PSP, BMP, and HCBS rates mod. That's what we're covering in the business process sessions. But we will touch on a couple of these forms as well during that those sessions. So definitely get signed up if you haven't already. And hopefully we'll have a little bit better weather situation in January, and we won't have to struggle to participate in those sessions. But again, we really appreciate you hanging with us in spite of everything, and hope you get a lot out of today's session.
Absolutely. Thank you. You all have had a rough December, and my thoughts are with all of you in ways I can't even tell you. Moving on to our agenda. Today, I want to just briefly remind you of what we covered yesterday, and then we're going to go into DD family billing, appeals, the discharge form, and actually, you'll see that I have that on here twice. We are not going to actually do that particular form. We are going to talk about it. And the reason we are not going to do it is because as soon as I click enter or submit that form, then my person can no longer be used in the sandbox. Certainly when you go live, once you discharge somebody, they are discharged and no longer part of the waiver. We're going to go into the individual support team, or the IST form, and the behavior management plan, the BMP. We're going to talk about the safety device and the safety device application packet. And that one has some nuances that you haven't quite seen before. One of the common things or themes between all of these forms is that they all work the very same way. And if you haven't yet picked up on that, you most certainly will today. And then, of course, we're going to talk about next steps and wrap things up. Oops. As in the past, you have your Zoom toolbar, and you have the Q&A icon that's available for you to ask questions. They will go to Leslie. She will do her very best to answer them. There may be a couple that she defers to the FAQs or the later sessions in January, but she's been pretty good. She gets most of them covered. And then there's also the chat. You're not able to chat with me. However, Jack is able to chat with you, and she tends to send you links throughout this program. And a reminder, this is listen only, so we are not opening up the phone lines. All right, what we covered yesterday, if you think back to it, we had our, let me pull up the system, I'm gonna log in. And I'm doing my acknowledgement. And my organization is Evergreen Training. My location, Baxter. And I am acting on behalf of myself. So I have Paul Jenkins. Excuse me. So within Paul's record, we have all these various forms. And we have the person-centered plan. I want to open this up. The plan is completed. We started off with my life planning. And again, we had at the beginning of the section, the thinking tools. We had wrapped up my goals. I know I'm scrolling through these things very quickly. We had gone through my needs, strengths, barriers, services, and supports. We made sure that those were all there. And then we submitted this for state review. I have things very low on my screen, so I can't see them. Okay, so then we submitted this for state review. The plan was approved, so it came back to us, and it came back into us with the status pending provider selection. At that point, we went into the service and support. We located our waiver service, and down at the bottom, we completed this service implementation plan provider invitations. So we identified the provider that we wanted to submit a SIP. We then went into the SIP as if we were the provider. We completed that, sent it back to the case manager, which again, that's a different hat for us. And as a case manager, we would have received a notification, at which point we went in, we talked with Paul and said, hey, do you like this provider? He said, sounds great. So we added the provider at the top of the service. And then we just kept moving forward with the PCP in the rights, supports, and modifications section. We were able to add the HCBS rights modification form. And because we said, does justification of need for HCBS modification include challenging behavior? Because we said no to that, we were able to move forward and complete the provider assignment. Had we said yes, we would not have been able to do the provider assignment. And then we went forward with the completion of the form. From there, we moved to the application reconsideration packet. And with this, remember, it's the packet's bundle forms. So it was a checklist of forms. We linked our completed forms, the comprehensive assessment and the person-centered plan. And we also had to attach the DD yearly cost estimate. And again, just a reminder, that's completed outside of the system. And then we updated this. And when this went through the review process, the DD waiver manager determined the individual as medically eligible. From there, we moved to the classification reclassification packet. And of course, in this, the classification is the first one that's done. The reclassification is all subsequent ones. And we had our initial information and then our checklist of forms, all of which we linked. We did not have any attachments that were required, so we didn't attach anything, although we could have if it would have been relevant. And we submitted this. So again, this went to the DD waiver manager who took a look at this, approved it, and essentially when they classified it, that is their approval. The person has been classified for a given waiver. So we also covered a couple other forms, such as the reportable events, and you got to see how that works in the system. Now then, I want to move into the DD family support billing. That's our first form today. And this is used to request financial support for identified and qualified services and supports not covered by the waiver. So there's a pool of money for goods and services that are not paid for the waiver. Heating oil, for example. And this request for funding can be made by anyone, but a family member has to receive the funds on behalf of the person. And often at times, you're the one as the case manager who recognizes the need, and it's not necessarily someone else. Now, this is an existing process outside of the system. Well, now it's incorporated into Evergreen, and it's submitted to finance through Evergreen. Finance gets a notification, or they use their queries. They take a look at the form, and they will either approve or deny it. And then, based on whatever they say, guess what happens? Yes, you get a notification. So again, there is this awesome communication between everyone who touches the forms that impact the person. So you're never left wondering where something is, and if you need to complete an action. And just remember, if you do happen to have that question, you have the queries available to you. And if you don't remember what those are, you'll go back, watch the microlearning. It'll help you out tremendously. You have seen this before. Forms are started the same way. In this instance, family support billing is under service authorization. And it makes sense that it's there because it's money related. And I share that with you because I found I was checking all sorts of different categories. But my reminder for this is billing, it's money. Service authorization is money. And then there are forms on here. There's 2 documents that are optional. For instance, a copy of a utility bill, and then maybe supporting documentation for costs. So let me show you what this looks like in the system. Okay, and I'm going to use a new person today. And so I'm going to use my magnifying glass because I am using a person I tested a while ago, a couple weeks ago. And this is someone who all of their information mirrors that of the persons we created for the CCM liaison training. So my person's first name is CCM liaison and last name is person 0. And a reminder, this is what your person's name is going to look like, of course, with the appropriate first name and last name. I'm clicking search on this, and there she is. And I'm going to scroll down here to forms on this left navigation menu. And I'm going to click on forms. I have my list of forms. Now you can see right at the top, there was a form, a DD family support billing that was completed, but it's been closed. And I don't have any additional forms of that type. Again, just a reminder that up here in this upper right corner, you have this forms filter icon. And clicking on this, this is a list of all of the forms that have been created. And you can use this to target any particular form, see what's been done so far. So I am going to, up here in the upper left corner, click on Add New Form. I have the form categories. At some point, you're going to choose a category and the form's not there. That's okay. It means just go back, choose a different category until you find the right one. I'm coming down to service authorizations. And here in the middle is the DD support, DD family support billing. And I click on that and say next. Yes, I want to create this form. The form looks like at the top, like all of our other forms. And even the body looks the same, except there's different categories. There's the attachments, our status here. Again, close is that big red void stamp, meaning you can't do anything else with the form. When we have it done, we're going to submit it. There are completion requirements here. And on these details, it tells us exactly what is needed. We have expand by, and then we have the toggle. So I'm just, again, going to start at the top. And all of this overview information came from Evergreen. The system knows it, so there's no need for you to type it in. The family member information, I do need to add this. My cursor is a pointer finger, and I have the pencil icon. So when I click on this to open it up, I have the family members listed. And again, because this is a sandbox, because we created a lot of different people, we created about 3,000 records for this system. There's names that look very different than what they would in real life, such as the name of this person's doctor is CCM liaison for the first name, and their last name is physician. We tried to make it really clear. CCM liaison, that's the first name. Their last name is emergency for emergency contact. That's who I'm going to select. And I can see all of the information for them. And I'm going to click Save. The last section, and let me check my completion requirements. So I do have family member information completed, is the family support details. And here, yes, I can change the date by which the services have to be rendered. And today is the 20th. So actually, yeah, I do want to change this date. I can't believe we're moving into 2024 in a couple days. I'm going to click Save. And here, now I have to add the request because, again, my completion requirements tell me I have the date, but I don't have a service requested. So I'm going to click Add Request. And I have the type of service here. I'm just going to stick with heating oil. And I'm selecting a random code here. You, of course, will know what code you're selecting. I'm requesting 500, and here's my ghost text to help me out. And my little light bulb, should I forget. I click Save. My completion requirements, they are all done. Again, the attachments, I could add them if I would like. That is part of your business process. So I'm going to update the status, and I'm just going to submit this. Am I sure? And I'm going to say continue because yes, I do. And now it moves to the next step for review by finance. So this is the DD Family Support Billing, such a shorter form compared to our comp assessment and PCP that we spent so much time on. Now I want to go back and I want to move us into grievances and appeals. So this process is currently tracked outside of the system. It's tracked outside of your current system. It's now being incorporated into Evergreen to minimize the paper forms that are outside of Evergreen. We want all the information about the person available in one place for easy access. We want to eliminate the need for you to search through multiple locations and a whole bunch of different forms just to target one for your given person. So there are multiple levels with the grievance and appeals document. The level 1 is for grievances and appeals. And this is what's completed at the case manager and the provider level. And the actual response to level 1, if the person doesn't like the response or they don't get a response, they can then submit the grievance at level 2. And level 2, you can see, goes on to the ODES administrator. And if it then gets appealed, it goes to level 3, which is an administrative hearing. And if the person still disagrees after that hearing, it can go above level 3 to the commissioner's office and possibly to court. This form has to be started and necessary research completed within 8 days. There are times you can't do all of that within 8 days. And so there is a way for you to request an extension. Here is that grievances, or excuse me, we got to start the form first. So here it gets started. It is a case and care form available in the form itself is grievances and appeals. And then you can see what the form looks like. Now, in just a moment, I'm going to show you how you can update it to pending. So I want to show you this form in the system. Now, I know I do have a grievance or appeal document already created for this person. So I clicked on my filter icon. I came down to the form grievances and appeals. Oh, and there was already one on November 14th that was already resolved, that was completed. Well, I want to do a new form. So I'm coming up here to add new form. And like we saw, it's in their case and care plans and forms. And then front and center, grievances and appeals. And I'm submitting it. And I want to see level 1. Now, again, a reminder, right now in the sandbox, we all have more access than we would ever have once the system goes live. So you won't even see levels 2 and 3 because you're not able to do those. I'm going to do the reason for the appeal. And I have the date it's received. The system defaults to today. I'm going to keep it that. Obviously, you can change the date. And I click save. And here's the form. Again, at the top, it's the same type of information that's available. Attachments, the status, and here we know what close means. The pend, this is what's used to put it in that pending status. Submit or complete. And submit means it's all done. There's There's no additional actions needed. I had to take a minute to just double check my notes. My completion requirements are all listed here. And then, of course, I have my expand all and my toggle. You can jump around. I'm starting at the top with the overview, and the information in Evergreen is already populated for us. The administrative actions, I need to add this. So in the lower right corner, or lower left corner, excuse me, I have the Add Administrative Actions button. And with this, if there was an extension, it would already be identified. But for me, I can identify it here. It's under investigation. And the extension date, I'm going to make it next week. And click Save. It can't be less than the decision due date. The system's telling me that. So I'm just going to leave this to today. You know what? I'm going to move to a different person. I'm opening up Paul, and there's forms here. So I'm going to add new form and case and care plans, grievances and appeals. And again, I'm doing level 1, my reason for the appeal, and then the date it's received. Okay. Now, those other error messages I got. Remember, I know Evergreen. I don't know your business process. And so because of your business process, there is something in that other grievance and appeal form that prohibited me from creating another one. I can't tell you why, because the reason I can't is a business process. And that's what you know. That's not what I know. I know how the system works and buttons to push. But it is a great illustration of how your business processes have been built into Evergreen. So there's that guardrail, and you're not going to do something you shouldn't be able to do. So I have my overview here. I'm going to close that. My administrative action. And notice this is not a required field. Up here in our completion requirements, this is not required. So it's there if it's needed, if we need that action. The grievance and appeal information, this is needed. And we can see that right here in completion requirements. So the reason defaulted, but I can change it. I'm just doing required fields. The date received, again, is based on what was already identified. However, I can adjust it. Now, some of these fields, you are not going to see them upon go live because, again, you have more access than you would typically have. And I'm just going to save this information. I'm going to go to additional grievance information. And this is required, so I'm going to complete it. The date of the incident, I'm going to choose yesterday. And then I'm just going down again. Evergreen is limiting some of my selections based on what's already been input and what is known about the system. I'm adding persons involved, and this is just typing stuff in. And again, I can add an additional person who was involved. If I add multiple lines, I have to complete them. So actually, I don't have a second person. So I'm going to remove this line. So only one shows. And then I'm going to go through and complete the rest of the questions. And these are the questions you have today. So there's nothing new in there. And I save the information. The appellant information. Again, let's see if it's required. Oh, it is. So I'm going to do that as well as the disposition details. That lower left corner, I have my button, so I opened it up and I'm identifying who is doing the grieving or appealing. And then lastly, I'm coming down to disposition details. My pencil icon, I have my pointer finger, so I'm going to click to engage, and I'm going to say, identify the decision and the date and the save. And we know my dates don't make sense compared to what you experience in the real world. But they do show you how to navigate the system. So it's time to update the status because all of my completion requirements have been met. So here I'm going to close the form. I can void it. If I penned it, this is where I would identify the reason for this pending. If I select other, I would have to input the reason why. I can submit this form. And when I submit it, this moves it to the next level. So again, it's really important that you read these messages. The next thing you can do is complete it. And this is basically saying the form is all done. There's nothing left to do. I'm going to click continue on that. The form is now completed. There is an overturn button. You will not see that. It's only in the sandbox that you see it. And at this point, you would not be able to make any edits to the form. So the next form I want to go to is the individual support team. And here's my add new form again. And I think this is case and care plans and forms. And there it is. Now, as we move forward in some of these forms, I may not know the categories. If I don't know it, that was somewhat intentional because I will be showing you how you just check out a different category. It's going to be part of your learning process. And I click next. Am I sure? Yes, I do want to complete this. But I realize I'm jumping ahead of my PowerPoint. I have information to share with you about this form. I get so into what I'm showing people that I just tend to keep going like a train going through a tunnel. So you have this form currently in EIS, and the form in Evergreen is consistent with the form that you have today. There's been improvements, though, that include several notifications to crisis for 24-hour, 10-day, and 3-month follow-ups, and when a crisis plan is recommended. Excuse me. There are also notifications that go to you when the status is ER disposition is completed, or the crisis temporary housing form is submitted. You're going to get a notification then. You'll also get one when all active providers, when the form has been completed and a PSP or BMP is recommended. So you get the notification, the provider gets the notification. And then the appropriate party gets a notification when the form is completed and it can be closed. Now then, do you have to remember all the things you're going to get these notifications for? You do not. Because Evergreen knows what notifications it needs to send you. So here is the form that you can see. And the purpose of this is meeting to evaluate the current situation and establish an action plan for the person with service providers. And this typically occurs with a hospital visit, usually if a person was in crisis. Now, you will be notified when there's an ER disposition form completed, or, like I said, a crisis temporary housing form is created. When that's the case, you're going to review the form, which was triggered by a notification, and then you're going to coordinate the IST meeting, the planning team, as part of the PCP process. With your PCP, I don't know if you recall, but there was a section for IST, an IST form, and it was blank. You didn't have a button where you could add anything within the examples I did. Well, once this form is created, with the next PCP that I do, any completed form would be displayed in the PCP. So again, I have that comprehensive view of the person's situation. Now I'm ready to show you this in the system. So I already started my form. This one, there's no attachments for it, but I have the status, my completion requirements, and expand all, of course, in my toggle. Now the IST team, this comes from the person record. And I'm going to identify the meeting date. Here you can see there's various information. I need to add a little bit more information. And again, I'm just doing what is required. You are going to be doing all the optional fields as well. And I'm just making my random selections here. And I'm going to identify a follow-up date. I'm going to say it's needed tomorrow. If there are multiple follow-ups that are needed, they can be identified here. Now, there are required follow-ups, and for the required follow-ups, Evergreen knows about them and sends a notification. So you don't have to figure out those dates and list them here. This is asking about other types of follow-ups independent of that. So I have this completed, and I'm going to, here I can add the IST members. And the IST participant, again, you've seen this before. I can click staff member, I can click contact. Here I have Jules Jenkins and James Knox. For Paul, these are his contacts. And the attendance type, was it in person or by phone? I'm going to say by phone and click save. And then I can also add staff members. And this came from, again, this is permissions and access related. So in here, you are going to see a lot of different names on here. And that's because we have a lot of different staff members, all who have the absolute most authority or access they possibly could have. And because of that, all of those staff members get listed here. You will not see that. It has to do with permissions in the system. Remember, we said that access is role-based. And right now, we've given people access to all roles for training purposes only. I'm going to cancel this for now. My completion requirements, I have everything completed. So I can update this to in progress, and I'm going to say it's completed. The reason, and here I identify the additional reason or the reason and add my comments. Okay, now I want to move into the behavior management plan. Again, this is a process that exists. The form you'll see in Evergreen mirrors your current form. Now, in your existing system, it's separate from your PCP. There's no connection, it's not integrated. If you think back to the PCP, we had that decision tree, and there was that section under safety and security that asked about the individual support team, that asked about PSP, that asked about the BMP. And there wasn't anything populated, nor could we populate it. But once we complete this form, it's going to show in subsequent PCPs. Now, the BMP is completed if there's challenging behaviors. And so a person, excuse me, could have both an HCBS rights modification addendum and a BMP, or they might have one or the other. Both are associated with modifying rights. And the BMP is created when the right is limited due to challenging behavior, not just HCBS rights. This one's a little broader. As with everything in Evergreen, there's automated workflows. So things automatically get forwarded based on the actions you take. And this mirrors your existing form. You're not going to have any surprises here. This is used when the behavior issues are more severe than would be covered by an HCBS rights modification. Now, this is also identified and documented as a need in the comprehensive assessment. And remember, all of your comprehensive assessment information flowed into the PCP. Specifically, your services or strengths, needs, and barriers. Those you had to do some linking to the goals. But if you remember, there was also those little boxes for that quick view that you could click on and see information from the comp assessment. So that's also available. Okay, and now the PCP is going to provide you an alert when you need to create a BMP. So Evergreen's going to help you out on that. But again, there's nothing really new about this form except that you're doing it in Evergreen, and Evergreen is going to guide you through the process. You've not seen this before, the starting of the form and then completion requirements. So let me show you this one in the system. This form is completed, the IST. I'm going to go to the back. And again, I'm in the forms icon on that left navigation menu. I'm going to go to add new form. And case and care plans forms, I'm going to give that a try. It's right at the top. And I'm going to click next. Am I short? Yes, I am. There's the attachments here. My statuses, no surprise. Completion requirements, I have all of those here. And there's a lot. I had to scroll down to see them all. You'll also see there's attachments that I'm going to have to add. I love how it's been built into Evergreen, that attachments checklist. Not everyone has done that for their users. Odes, in doing this, was very committed to giving you all the tools you could need. And one of it is incorporating those attachments into your completion requirements. There's the expand all and the toggle to see the different categories. Because again, you're going to jump around. As you become familiar with the system, you're going to know all the information that's needed and easily jump around. I'm starting at the top and working my way down. So there's information that's already known. I'm identifying the level of the plan. And then again, just completing required fields. You can see Evergreen knows that there's an HCBS rights modification and has taken that information from the form and put it in here. It was also started in the PCP before it became its own freestanding form. And then the qualified professional, I click to add that person. And I could add additional qualified professionals. I'm going to click save. I'm moving to challenging behaviors. There aren't any listed here, so I have the button in the lower left. And I'm going to identify the challenging behavior. The frequency, you have 250 characters here. So obviously, I think that this is probably as part of your process more than just a word. And I'm going to click save. Now, there might be more than one challenging behavior because you're just putting one challenging behavior in at a time. So if there's a second one, I'm going to again click add challenging behavior and complete the same information. And I'll keep doing that until I have all of them entered. Now, again, just a reminder, since I have this pencil icon here, I can edit the original one, or I can put it in the trash can. I'm ready to move into the description of interventions to be utilized. Again, I'm going to click to open this up. And I'm sure you figured out, I'm not reading all of the questions, just at times giving you a sense of them, because one, you know what the questions are, but two, let's also face it, let's be realistic. If I took you through every single question and explained it, you would not be happy with me. But it is the same information you have always added before. I'm going to come up here and check my completion requirements. I am working my way right down this form. So now to rationale. Again, I'm going to answer this and click save. Restraint documentation. I click to engage it, and this is a drop down. Based on my selection, I have to input different information. Well, I'm going to say yes because I have to input information. But you know, there's some information I don't know right now, so I'm going to click save on this. And the reason I can do that and not get an error message is because these questions have the little exclamation mark, meaning it's required by this form. This question up here with the red asterisk, that's required by the system, by Evergreen, and I cannot complete the form unless I have all the questions with this red asterisk answered. So I'm going to save this for now. I'm going to go into specialized restraint. I'm going to say no in this instance. The need for medications, if I say yes, I have to then attach this this support plan. I'm going to say save, or yes, rather. Now then, once I added that, that increased the attachments that I needed to add. And so it's one of those when I got that message to add that attachment, I could have immediately gone into the system and done it, or I could wait and the system would tell me it's needed. So that was added based on the selection I made. I'm going to actually change this to no and click save. I'm going to go to the in-home stabilization. And I'm going to say no. Actually, let's say yes for this one. So I have to attach this form. And I could do it now, or I could wait. I'm going to do my transition plan. I want to go back and check my completion requirements before I move to signatures. Remember, I didn't complete the restraint component documentation because I didn't have all the information at that time. So I'm going to go up here and I'm going to complete that now. All right, checking my completion requirements again. They are done except for the signatures, the BMP physician evaluation, and the attachments checklist. I'm going to collapse some of those. So signatures, again, I'm going to affirm the signature's been verified. I have multiple options here for signature type. For the Guardian, I'm going to do written because, again, I want to remind you how that's done. So I need to select the file. So that written signature has to be on a document that's accessible in your computer. So I'm just locating that document and attaching it. And this tells me where I can find that document. And the date that it was signed, I'm just going to say today and save it. Now, even though this was added the same way I add an attachment, most of our other attachments, even if I've added them in a form, they've been collecting in this attachments icon on the left navigation menu. Well, when it comes to signatures, those are not added to that icon. That information is only available in the form itself. So now I'm going on to the person's signature. I'm going to do an e-signature for Paul. And I have to input his name. Evergreen knows when this signature is occurring. So I'm going to click save. And I'm scrolling down. Now it's time for my signature. I, of course, want to do an e-signature. And I'm scrolling down again. And my supervisor has to sign this. Well, supervisor does an e-signature as well. CMS case manager supervisor. Okay, those are done. I can add additional signatures if they are necessary. And if I add them, the screen looks exactly like the ones I've just completed. I need to add this evaluation. And there's information here for you. And I'm identifying Paul's physician and clicking save. All right, so I've gone through all of this. Let's check my completion requirements. I have my attachments checklist. So there are actually 4 forms here to complete. So smooth. I'm just making a note of what they are. So I'm not familiar with your forms the way you are. So, all right, I'm going to come over here to attachments. And I'm going to click add new attachment. I'm going to choose my file. And I'm sure you figured out I just use the same file all the time because I'm in the sandbox. The category, and this lists not just my required forms, but also a couple extras. Now, again, just a reminder, the end date is optional. If you add that end date, it does not do anything in the system. It is purely informational. You will still be able to access the form or the document. You're still going to be able to read it. You'll still be able to download it. So the system Evergreen is not going to stop you from that. I have more attachments. I have 1 out of 4. So I'm going to do new attachment, choose my file. Choose my category. And I'm just going to add my next 2 attachments. You're going to be very familiar with attachments after this. I want to close this to see, I want to see how I'm doing with my attachments. Okay, so I now just need the BMP physician evaluation. I'm choosing my file. And here it is. And so here, all of my completion requirements have been met. So I'm going to switch this, update the status to submit. And so now this is gone and it'll go through the IST committee review. How will they know it's there? Well, there's a notification that's sent about this so that somebody knows that it's waiting and they can move forward with completing this. So the pending committee review, well, that pretend now we're in the committee meeting. The committee's doing their review. They can close this saying it's not needed. They'll have to identify why it's being closed. Request clarification. So again, a clarification, they may have questions. They can add the questions here. Click continue. This is going to send the form back to you. And it's going to send it back to you in the status of in progress. How will you know it's there waiting? Because you'll get a notification. And you will then make the necessary edits and resubmitted the form again, and it'll again go through the review process. Okay. I want to show you again. I went to complete this. Click continue. Ensure all completion requirements are met before moving forward. There is a new field here. The review committee, they are going to have to input information. And the system stopped them because the form couldn't move forward. And I'm going to approve this. Again, dates come up. These can be edited by the review committee. Now let's give this a try. Okay, now then, we have been going right through this stuff. So in just a moment, I'm going to invite Leslie to add any comments she might want to about what we've covered so far. But before that, what I want you to do is stretch, because yes, we've only been doing this for an hour, but you've been sitting and just watching me complete forms. You watched me complete the DD family billing. You watched me complete the appeals form. You watched me complete the individual support team form, and the BMP. So I want you to stretch. We're doing a 7th inning stretch. Stand up, stretch, move your body around for just a moment, because the safety device approval packet's coming up, and this one has some nuances for you. So you're stretching and then sitting back down here, or you can stand and watch, whatever works for you. Leslie, within the forms that we've covered so far, is there anything that you would like to add?
Not particularly, Lisa. You did a really great job walking us through these. Again, as Lisa mentioned, these are all existing forms and processes. The only major difference here is that some of these are now going to be captured inside of Evergreen rather than outside of the system on paper. So just keep that in mind. But no major differences there that you need to be concerned with. I will also say, again, I'll make another pitch for the January sessions. We will cover PSP, BMP, HCBS rights in one of those sessions on January 8th. So if you want to learn a little bit more about the BMP business process, if you have questions related to that, definitely register for that session.
Absolutely. Thank you, Leslie.
Thank you.
Because again, I focus on how you navigate the system rather than your business processes. All right. I want to move to the safety device approval packet. And this is a new form, or it's new to be documented in Evergreen. Currently, this is completed outside the system. So the purpose of this, it's a packet. Remember, we said packets are bundles of forms. And this collects 2 forms. And these forms are going to be attachments. The safety protective device form, excuse me, and the safety protective device approval form. And you're going to see as we go through this, there's different sections of this form to be completed. I want to show you this one now in the system. And I'm going to come back to my forms. I want to come up here to a new form. I think this is case and care plans. It's down at the bottom. And I'm going to click next. I'm kind of disappointed that I've known all the categories up to this point. I would have liked you to have seen me search for the different ones. Now I'm going to click save because I want to get this started. And actually, Before I go into this form and complete it, I want to connect a dot for you. I'm coming over here to the health information icon on the left navigation menu. And I'm coming down to devices and modifications. Well, there's already a medical device that's been added. I want to add a safety device. So I clicked on new device and modification. In my type, I'm clicking safety device. And I have my options here. So I'm just going to select what is applicable. There's an active button. This defaults to being active. If this device no longer applies, of course, I would uncheck that. But for now, it's active. So I'm going to click Save. And Evergreen is telling me the safety device cannot be added as there's not an approved safety device plan. So that's what we're going to do next. I wanted you to, if you went to add a safety device, know that you would get an error until we get the safety device approval packet completed. So I'm canceling out of that. I'm going to come back here to my forms. And I had already started this form, so I'm just going to click to open, click to open it up. Here's information about the PCP, the date of it, and the meeting narrative. So again, the meeting narrative, it's something I hadn't mentioned at the time. It was collected in the PCP and it automatically populates into this form. You don't have to go back into the PCP and look it up and retype the information or even do a copy and paste. It is here for you. And my next thing is the review team actions. Now notice I can't, there's no pencil icon. I'm clicking and I can't do anything. Let me check out the completion requirements. This particular packet is bundling these two forms, the Safety Protective Device Request Form and the Safety Protective Device Approval Form. And these are forms that are completed outside of Evergreen. These two forms are not in Evergreen. So I'm going to attach these forms and I clicked the paperclip icon, add new attachment. Selected the attachment. I'm selecting the form. And again, like all the other forms, there's a list here for me so that Evergreen's telling me what's needed and what my options might be. I'm going to add my next attachment. And my category, the request form. They're there. I'm going to check my completion requirements. They have all been met. So I'm ready to submit this form. And I confirmed that I want to submit it. And this has gone on to a committee review. And so here the committee has the ability to again approve. They may request a clarification. And just like any other clarification they may request, the form automatically goes back to an in-progress status, and you get a notification that it's out there. So you know you have to take some actions, make a clarification. Once you're done, you would resubmit this. The approval can be denied or just closed. No action is needed. But again, by closing it, a reason has to be selected. I'm going to approve this, and it gives me dates here. It defaulted to the approval end date as 1 year from yesterday. So the committee approved it today, but this ends 12/19/2024. And again, I can change it. Let's see if I can make it longer. And I'm going to hit save. So I could make it longer. Now then, I did that to show you it works. Your business process will likely drive the date that you have to input or the date range you have to input. And so that is our safety device approval packet. The next thing I want to talk about is the discharge form. And this is something that's currently tracked outside the system. Again, with Evergreen, there's as much as possible being brought into the system. So everything is all in one place. You don't have to go to these different places to look for it. And not only is it in one place, it's in one record. So the form, again, you can see it started like other forms, and there's four fields to fill in. Now, your reasons for completing this: the person might be deceased, they might move out of the state, or they no longer receive or require services. And notifications are sent out whenever somebody is discharged to let people know they have to complete the closeout tasks. Now, of course, by people, I mean staff members. So let's take a look at this one in Evergreen. I'm going to go back to my forms list, and I'm going to click New Form. It's the case and care plan, and it's the second form, the discharge form. And so here I have a drop down for the program unit. There's the data discharge. There's different reasons here to identify. And then there's comments here with the ghost text to guide you on what you might input. And then from this point, I would click Save. I do not want to do that right now. Well, actually, I can save this information. I have my completion requirement, so I know the form is done. It's at this point I would update the status to move it to the next stage in the workflow. I am not going to do that because the minute I do that, Paul is no longer in the system, Evergreen. I can no longer do any practice with Paul in the Evergreen sandbox. So within the forms that you have that you can play with and do play, in your packet, you have exercises. You are welcome to go beyond those. There are just two things that, one, don't do a discharge form, because like I say, you won't be able to complete this again. The other is, I think, incident reporting, death and mortality. I'm going to start the form. Oh, here it gives you information on this. So don't do the death and mortality, okay? I don't want to risk you'll then be led to do a discharge form and accidentally complete that and then no longer be able to process. Keep practicing. Anything else is in the system is fair game. Just know upon go live, you will not have as broad an access as you have in the training environment. You are going to have access needed to perform your case manager actions. And so upon go live, when you say, wait a minute, I saw this other button when going through the training. It's not there. I need that button. Actually, you don't. It was just for training that you had it. All right. So I want to move into next steps. And Jack has been pretty on the ball with putting links into the chat. We'll see how on the ball she is right now. So for odes, the next steps, again, you've heard me say this before, but continue to practice, practice, practice. Okay. That's the best way to learn the system. Go in and play. Again, a reminder, odes is emailing out the person you're going to be assigned. Please only use your person. If you use somebody else's, there's a domino effect because they're going to use somebody else's and they use somebody else's. And every time each one of those people goes into practice, they're not going to be able to because actions have been completed. Stick with your person, please. The other thing is, I don't know if I've shared this with you yet. And again, if I have, you may once again roll your eyes, but I do ask you keep things professional in everything that you input into the training environment. Again, it seems like we're adults. I shouldn't have to say anything like that. I have found every time I don't say it, somebody puts something inappropriate into the training environment. I fall into that information and I have to go in and remove it. Please, other people can see it. Let's keep it professional. You're going to watch your emails. You're going to watch the micro learnings. You're going to tie up any loose ends. Again, remember, you want to set things to complete because as of 5:00 p.m. on the 12th, no additional actions can be taken. Again, I'm going to suggest maybe now you start doing your planning because we're falling into the holidays. I don't know about you, but I work volunteer outside of this, and people keep saying, well, let's do this, let's do this. Well, next week is that week between Christmas and New Year's. And so a lot of people might be off. There needs to be some pre-planning here. And then remember, you have the Q&A sessions the week before the deployment. In fact, there are the trainings that Leslie has mentioned, so please sign up for those. There are also Q&A sessions that are available. Please register for those if you would like to. You have your FAQs and recordings, and then there's the email of your questions. And Jack is actually on the ball, so she's got your FAQ links in this out there for you. She has got your course survey. Click on that link, please. Let's start completing that survey. She has the email where questions can be emailed out there for you, and also where you can see the micro learnings. Okay. So please click on that survey so you can complete it. There's only a few questions, and it's the same questions as you've seen before. Each session, though, has been a little bit different. So we want your feedback on each individual session. That's why you've been completing them at the end of each session. So ideally, you've completed 3 of these. Again, please, when you are going through this, look at the options, look at the scales, because there is a rating of strongly agree to strongly disagree. You don't want to accidentally select the wrong one. And like I said, there's been times we've had people go all the way down the line and select strongly disagree, which of course creates concerns for us. We want to check it out, find out what we need to change and adjust. But then it comes from the comments. We can see it's very evident that rating does not match the comments, and there's a good possibility that the person just didn't read all that closely. And so now, Leslie, I would like you to invite you to once again provide any final thoughts, with this being the final session for us.
Yes, thank you, Lisa. Thank you again, everybody, for joining up this morning. I know it's been a little challenging for some of us with the technology situation. We were thrilled that you were able to make it and that we could get you through these 3 sessions this week in spite of everything. And as just to underscore some of the things that Lisa said, definitely get in there, use the sandbox training environment. I'm hoping that all the case managers have their access already. I know providers, if there are any providers on this call, I know you guys still are waiting, some of you, for your sandbox training environment access. And I want to again apologize for the delay in that with all the technological challenges and state of Maine office closures. That has been a bit of a delayed process. I think some team members are going to be working on that today in spite of state offices still being closed. But if not, then definitely, tomorrow, if things are back, if state offices are back open, then you should expect to start seeing those again tomorrow. Also, as a reminder, there are some training recordings posted on our website already. I suspect that last week's sessions for this part A, B, and C will be posted hopefully tomorrow or Friday. So you can certainly access those as playback when you're in the sandbox training environment if you want. Also a reminder that when you're in the sandbox, you're going to have more permissions than you will have in the production environment. That is to make it easier for you to navigate that system. As always, tying up those loose ends before January 12th at 5 p.m. Definitely want to finish up progress notes, reportable events, and death and mortality forms. If you have any of those in the system, those will migrate in a closed state, meaning you won't be able to edit those in Evergreen. Other forms will migrate so that you can edit those and complete those in Evergreen. So not to worry about other forms. As always, if you have any questions at any time, email us at evergreen.dhhs@maine.gov. We are trying to monitor that email box and respond to you timely. And if common questions are coming through there, we're trying to incorporate those into our frequently asked questions on our website. I did see a couple more questions come in through the Q&A. If you are a case manager and you have not received your sandbox access, please email evergreen at .dhhs@maine.gov. And we will check to see why you have not received that. Maybe an email bounced or something along those lines, because I do believe that all the case manager ones went out. So if you have not received yours at your agency, please send an email to evergreen.dhhs@maine.gov, and we'll try to get that cleared up for you quickly. And thank you again, everybody. Everybody stay safe. Hopefully everybody gets their power and their internet back in the next day or so that we have that before the holidays. But appreciate everything that you guys are doing.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. I hope the rest of your year goes much better than the past few days, and that you do have a good holiday season. Thank you so much for being here this morning. And
Thanks,
enjoy the rest of
Lisa.
your week.
Bye-bye.
Bye.